this session we will talk about the expectations. As we know, that is the in interpersonal relationship, when we want to have a good interpersonal relationship, it is a fulfillment of the expectations, and whenever there is no fulfillment of the expectation, there is a twist in the relationship. So, we will understand the role of the expectations in the interpersonal relationship. So, as far as the expectations definition is concerned and concept is required, in Oxford Dictionary it talks about a strong belief that something will happen or be the case. So, therefore, in that case expectation is that yes, I am expecting for something which is likely to be happen, and that is called the expectation, or a belief that someone will or should achieve something, and that is also the expectation. Like from the parents, there is an expectation that is a child will achieve these particular marks, or the candidate expect that he will be successful in his interview. So, that is the achievement. So, whenever there is a belief to achieve something, that is also the expectation. One's prospects of the inheritance. So, therefore, in that case always one is looking towards the somewhere it is hidden, that is he will be able to get the some achievements of certain prospects will be there. However, the Cambridge University has talked about the expectation by saying the feeling that good things are going to happen in the future. So, expectation is always related to the positive emotions, and therefore, as per this Cambridge University is concerned, it talks about that it is a feeling that good things are likely to be happen. The feeling of expecting something to happen, and or there can be there is something that is likely to happen. So, therefore, in both the definitions by the Oxford Dictionary and the Cambridge University, we find that is the way it is the feeling is there, it is a belief is there, and therefore, in that case and it is related to the future. The business terminology that about the expectation means the presumed degree of probability of an occurrence, and therefore, in that case if we talk about the in the business language, then there it is in probability of an occurrence is there. And statistical terminology is average probability of a chance occurrence. So, therefore, in that case the expectation is that is the average probability of a chance occurrence. So, when we try to understand the meaning of the expectations through the Oxford Dictionary, through the Cambridge University, or the business terminology and statistical terminology, the one thing is very common in all, and that is expectation is about the future. Second is expectation is a state of mind, because as per the Oxford Dictionary it is a belief, or it is the feeling as per the Cambridge, or it is the presumed degree, it is a probability of occurrence. So, therefore, when we talk about the probability of an occurrence or a chance of an occurrence in statistical terminology, so it means that it is going to be the happen in future and likely to happen. Now, we will talk about the positive versus negative aspects of the low expectations, and that is the positive aspects of the low expectation is when having low expectations, the outcome is always better, leaving us more satisfied. So, for example, a child, as I mentioned, is expecting suppose the 70% marks in his examination. So, that is the low expectation is there, but if we score more than 70%, then always that is having the better living and more satisfied will be there. Expectations are set to ruin the happiness, and therefore, many times it is we are having the very high expectations. If you are having the high expectations, then definitely that will ruin the happiness, but when we are having the low expectation, so definitely it will bring more satisfaction. When making unrealistic expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment because it did not turn out to be the perfect as we expected. Now, here is another very important limitation of the expectation, that whether your expectations are the realistic or not, and then how to identify the realistic expectations. So, realistic expectations are, as a manager, as an executive, as an administrator, one should focus more about the strengths and weaknesses, that what are the resources one is having. If one is having the all like manpower, that is having the technology, that is having the material, that is having the money, he is having the minutes or time, and he knows the methodology. These are the 6 M's of the management: man, machine, material, money, method and minutes. And then he has to evaluate, examine, identify, does he have the enough manpower, does he have enough technology, material, does he have the enough money, and does he have enough minutes, and all these 6 M's. So, if he is having the enough for the efforts, so therefore, when the resources, when then there are enough for the making the efforts, then the expectation will be more realistic. But if we are ourselves are not very clear, this is how much manpower hours are required. So, if you want an expected outcome, output, and in that expected output, if the manpower, that is the man hours in case of the production, you want 100 man hours, and that manpower which is available is enough, that is 100 hours, then definitely your efforts will be enough, and then their expectation, that will be realistic. So, when we talk about the realistic expectations, so we have to identify the resources. Another important factor for the realistic expectation is, that is the potential to perform. So, therefore, a child, how much percentage he will gain, that is, it depends on his potential. Potential is the ability to do. So, if you want a realistic goal, then realistic goal will be ability to do. But the problem is having the equity in expectation. Now, whether my child is able for the 90% or not, that ability is required to decide. When parents are capable to identify the potential of the child, that is, yes, the child is having that potential. So, there is a very thin layer, and in that thin layer you have to understand how much I can stretch to my child or to my subordinate at workplace. That is, this subordinate will be able to reach up to this particular goal, up to this particular target. So, first we have child, we should have the subordinates, and then we have to understand the potential. So, therefore, if we do not understand the potential, then it will not be realistic expectation. I am sure that is you would also like to know, that is how to identify the potential. Potential is decided on the basis of the past performance. Potential depends on the environment. Like when we talk about the performance of a subordinate at the workplace, then what work culture, what work environment you are providing, so that the potential can be maximized. And when the potential is maximized, your expectation will be the realistic expectation. So, these two factors are very, very important according to me. That is, having the resources, unless and until if you do not have the resource, there is no point, you can't follow the second step of identifying the potential of the resources. So, first is the potential, the resources, and second is the potential. The potential will be based on the past performance. If you recall, in my earlier session I have talked about that is the how the performance and potential are related. So, when we talk about the relationship is like this, that is the performance and the potential or the work or the stress, right. So, it is like this. So, either you stress the stress or you stress the potential. So, there will be a limit of the potential, but if you stress more, then definitely the performance will go down. So, if you there will be the realistic potential of an individual, but when you will stretch then realistic potential, then definitely the performance will go down. So, therefore, it becomes very important, that is the you are having the right understanding of first managing the resources to fulfill your expectation, your hard work. If you are appearing in the competitive examination, your literature, your books, your resources, study material, that should be enough, and then there should be a maximum potential, and when there is a very enough combination between the resources and the potential, you will have the realistic expectations. And when you will have the realistic expectations, so then you will not have the disappointment, because it will turn into the perfect as expected. And when you are making the unrealistic expectations, then in that case there will be the disappointment, and it did not turn out to be the perfect as we expected. So, in the expectation, the one has to be realistic. Second positive aspects of the low expectation is, life with low expectations gives us no preconceived ideas of how something will outcome, and therefore low or no expectations let us consign the outcome. So, it becomes very important, that is whatever the outcome is there, and then if you are having the low expectations, then we will have the preconceived ideas that is likely to be happen. But when you have the low expectation, there is a other side also, and it is the negative aspects of the low expectations. The negative aspects of the low expectation is, by having low expectations, you will unconsciously prevent yourself from the succeeding, and therefore, in that case, even if you have the potential, even if you are having the enough resources, but you may underestimate yourself, and therefore, low expectations are good because they will satisfy you, but low expectations are bad because you will prevent yourself from the higher targets, and therefore, what is required? We stop striving to be the best when we can, because we become satisfied with the average or the an exam. So, therefore, in that case we will be able to do the best when we are striving. We do not always get the best out of the life because we become lazy and unmotivated. So, there is a say, not failure, but low aim is crime, and therefore, in that case, when you are keeping the low aim, low expectation, and then it will be, even if you have the potential to perform, potential to work, but one will feel lazy, that is, no, this much is enough for me, 60% is enough. So, then one will become the lazy, and then it will be unmotivated, and therefore, there might be the diversion in the achieving the target. So, When we talk about the expectation effect and the placebo effect, expectation effect a phenomenon in which the perception and behavior change as a result of personal expectations or the expectations of others. So, we want to achieve something to make our parents happy. We want to achieve something so make our boss happy, and therefore we put our 100%, and that 100% that will be the phenomena, that is the, as you will have the high expectation, you will make the high efforts, you will manage the high resources, and therefore you will be able to achieve your high expectations. But when we talk about the Pygmalion effect, people perform better or worse based on the expectation of supervisor. So, therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the whatever the expectation of the supervisor is there, and that will make the effect on the people performance, that is the better or worse. It means that supervisor should be enough capable to extract the potential of the subordinate, but not in a wrong way, not by the threatening, but in a positive way, and encouraging the intrinsic motivation of the subordinate, and in that case the one will be able to perform in a better way. When we talk about the placebo effect, patients experience treatment effect based on their belief that a treatment will work. So, the way we will believe, accordingly there will be the result. So, therefore, there are many cases in which the people have overcome with the hazardous diseases, with the fighting themselves and believing themselves that is no, they will be able to kill this particular disease and will be able to survive, they will be okay, and this particular belief is making them the big fighter, and then they are becoming successful is there. But in spite of that, if there is a depression, there is a negative response, there is a stress to disease, then definitely in that case the outcome that will be also negative or not that much effective. Placebo effect occurs when people are given therapy of placebo, in which people have faith of receiving the real treatment, but actually are not given and still shows the sign of improvement. So, many times it has been shown that is the people are having this type of the feeling, that is the yes, we are giving you the treatment, we okay, this tablet is for cure, however that tablet might be just a vitamin tablet, but that is the tablet and this will cure you, and that the patient he starts believing, yes, I will be better, and therefore he is getting the better by just belief and not real treatment is there, and that is the placebo effect is there. So, when you compare the expectation effect, the way you will have the expectation and this that is the Pygmalion effect, that is they perform better or worse based on the expectation of supervisor, and when you compare this placebo effect, that is the in which the people have faith of receiving the real treatment, right, and therefore in that case they are having the sign of improvement, and that is possible. So, therefore, we find a relationship. With relationship, that is you believe, you will get the positive expectation results in the expectations. When you believe, you will get the positive outcome whatever your expectation. So, therefore, in that case this particular effect will be very much effective in the achievement of the expectations. So, how this is applicable for at the workplace? At workplace, we have to understand and manage the resources, we have to understand the potential, we have to create the realistic expectation, we are supposed to develop that placebo effect, that is the expectation effect. So, therefore, in that case the person starts believing that is, yes, I can achieve, and many times unrealistic goals that you can convert into the realistic goals by developing that belief, by providing that work culture, by providing that environment, by saying you can. So, my next slide is, that is the how the expectations come from. So, it comes from you. Sometimes the expectations you put on yourself can be the most unrealistic and hardest to meet. So, putting yourself in that particular silo, putting yourself in that particular situation where you feel that is okay, I will do this particular work, I will achieve this particular target, I will get this particular position, I will get this particular goal, and this will be my expected outcome. So, therefore, you yourself put, so this is a demand from yourself. And dear friends, most of the time this intrinsic motivation is giving the results. So, when you are having that particular belief in yourself, and therefore, even those unrealistic and hardest targets that you will be able to meet. But when sometimes it is not the me, I am doing for my family, because my family is having the expectations from me, that is, no, I should achieve this particular goal. So, therefore, family expectations might range from how to behave or dress, what sort of person you can date, and what sort of work you choose, etc. In addition to this, in Indian context, I would like to say that is the parents' expectations from the child motivates to the child. So, many times we will find the children are working hard. They want to be the big in their lives, not because of themselves as in the earlier case, but because they fulfill the dreams of the parents. Because they have seen that how much their parents have struggled to reach this particular goal. They have seen that is the how much money they are spending, how much labor they are doing, how much the cut in their expenses they are making just to make me a big person. And therefore, to fulfill this expectation that no, I should be successful in my life, I am putting the efforts. Third is the peers. Sometimes your friends might expect you to behave or dress in a certain way, or sometimes your friends may encourage you with the power, and that the friendship power, and that friendship power tells you that is you can. Sometimes it is the in Indian context the spouse. The spouse is encouraging, and that is why in Indian context we say Shiv ki Shakti. The Shiv ki Shakti is that is a spouse which is motivating and saying you can. Even the spouse may not have that particular belief of the expected outcome, but the spouse will say that is the no, you can. The one, even one is not having that expectation from oneself, but the spouse will motivate. Similarly, the friends will motivate. Sometimes the colleagues will motivate. Why do not you, those who are your well wishers, they will tell you, why do not you do this thing? You can. And then you achieve the high targets. And sometimes it is from the school or college. Your school or individual teachers may expect high results in a subject or across subjects is there. Dear friends, it is the creation of that belief. It is the creation of that self confidence. It is the creation of that particular goal which is very unrealistic and very hard, but because of your intrinsic motivation, maybe the family members like the parents earlier, or in the family member it is a spouse, or it is these from your schools and colleges, from where your teachers, and they will tell you, they will unfold that particular your potential, that is you can do that particular task, and you select this particular subject. Even I will tell you that is in case of the PG courses. In PG courses, the specializations like the finance, marketing, HRM, operations and IT, and then the what specialization for an MBA graduate, where that will be more suitable personality job fit I have talked earlier. So, therefore, in that case that will create the expectation that if you choose this specialization which matches with you, your personality, and then that guidance by the teacher, that will lead you to the high path of success. So, generating that belief or expectation of positively outcome to happen, right, that can come from the society, that can come from the oneself or the through the intrinsic motivation. Then there can be from the sports club or the team with the people you are working, and therefore, many times dear friends, at workplace you realize your potential. The people say you did very well, and that is there may be pressure from your sporting club or school sports coach to participate and do well. They may also expect you to achieve well academically regardless of how much time spent in your chosen sport, and therefore, in that case, that is the expectation is that okay, you are very good in sports, that is fine, but you are also supposed to be the good in academics. Sometimes some workplaces or individual managers might set unrealistic goals and targets, that might be also possible, and therefore, the managers can play an important role and develop through the interpersonal relationship, and interpersonal relationship is the generation of belief in others, that is you can achieve the unrealistic goals. Unrealistic means that is unrealistic for that particular person who believes that no I can't, and then the manager helps him to achieve that unrealistic goal what he sees, and then converts into the realistic goal. Society, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes society through the media and advertising expects you to behave in a certain way or buy certain products, and therefore, in that case that is it is the social surroundings, your friends, your peers, your parents, your family, right, your boss, your subordinates, your colleagues, right, they will ask you to expect in a certain behavior way which will create a certain type of the outcome. So, therefore, the way you will have the society, you will have the high potential to come. So, therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the how you are able to go on the path of success with the help of the people surrounding to you. Now, question arises, what do you expect from me? Trying to live their lives vicariously through you, wanting you to have the experiences they always wanted but never had the chance to have. And this happens many times. My dream I will try to put on my subordinates or on my children, which I could not do in my life, and now I wish that is my child or my subordinate can do it. So, why I could not do in my time, now I see that the next generation is able to get that particular result or outcome, and that is why I expect that is the you do at least. I could not, but you can. Assuming that an experience or value that work for them will work for you too, forgetting that what works for them may not work for everybody. And this is the value system, dear friend, and in India it is very strong. So, therefore, they will always consider that is the he will whatever has not been the for what works for them may not work for everybody, and that will value system that will help, and therefore, they are having the expectations from others. Okay, it has not worked for me, but maybe work for you. Placing different cultural value systems onto you. For example, your parents and grandparents might have been raised in a time and culture with values that are very difficult to different to yours, and may not realize or understand that the expectations that are placing on you are not ones that you would chosen for yourself, and many times this mismatch happens also. And therefore, when the others are putting those expectations, they are putting because what they could not do, they want that is you could do, but you can do it. But when we are talking about that is what you can choose yourself, but in that case, if the child is working for the fulfilling the expectation of parents, our subordinate is doing a job to make the person his boss happy, then definitely in that case he will not choose that what he wanted to choose for himself, and this will be a $1 million question. So, when there is an inaccurate expectations, so first I have talked about the expectations. I have talked about the how the positive expectations that can lead to the path of success, but because that is the you are unfolding the potential of others, but there can be the inaccurate expectations, and many times we find the parents are having the inaccurate expectations, and that inaccurate expectations are because of the performance of the siblings. Your elder brother has done this, so you are also supposed to be like this. If your elder brother has become so much successful, so you have to be that much successful, not less than that. And therefore, this type of the comparisons, this type of the forces in the family, and that will be because of the siblings, that will create the inaccurate expectations, because everybody does not have the same potential, that we forget. Information from other teachers, and therefore, in that case, if the other teachers are saying that is one can do, and then we start expecting that particular thing. Social stereotypes based on the race, sex, etc., and therefore, as I mentioned, that is a social stereotype is there, like earlier there was a thinking everyone should be engineer or doctor, not now, but earlier there was a thinking like this, and therefore, in that case the social stereotype was there, maybe causing the extra pressure and maybe the unrealistic expectations. Now, there may be the labeling, that is the learning disabled, that is ये कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा जिंदगी में, right, and therefore this type of the these conditions that will create the inaccurate expectations from others. So, finally, I will talk about that is how to manage the expectation. Stop expecting people to agree with you. You can expect from others. You are not in this world to live up to the expectation of others, nor should you feel that others are have to live up to yours. In fact, the more you approve of your own decisions in life, the less approval you need from everyone else. Talking to someone outside the situation, such as a friend, parent or counselor, can be a great way of expressing your feelings, and therefore, in that case these people, those who know you better, those who have spent time with you, they will be helping. Sometimes it can be helpful to rethink your own expectations. So, because of the to understand that is my expectation is the realistic or not, you should consult your parents, your friends, your teachers, your peers, and therefore get their feedback, and then definitely you will be able to analyze and understand my expectations from my own is the realistic or not. Or you can ask yourself to a friend in this situation, what would I suggest to a friend in this situation? So, situation analysis, that is very, very important. As I mentioned, that is the understanding the resources and managing the potential, that will create the realistic expectation. And then Many times people read your mind and then they say, okay, you do like this, and therefore, that can be the also in that case the fulfillment of the expectations. Reference stress itself, and therefore, in that case it is possible, that is a reframe, you have to reframe your stress, and then you have to understand your body should cope up with the external risk and threats. When you can see it that way and not as some outside enemy, you can reinterpret that stress as you rising to the occasion rather than the world crashing down you. And therefore, as I mentioned, before you get the crash, you should have a safe landing, and therefore, that safe landing is by knowing your own potential. And finally, express your feelings, writing down your feelings, using scream it, dream it can be a great way of understanding a situation. Try to understand the situation and reducing the power of expectation if it is too high, or reset your expectations, reset your realistic expectations, and look after yourself, because expectations can lead to a lot of stress, but understand how much stress you can bear, what is your personality, what type of your nature, what type of your resources, what type of stress bearing capacity, and then you decide your goal. So, many times you may not be able to reach to a particular goal, but wherever you reach, you will be enjoying your life, you will be stress free, and you will be doing your best. So, in spite of that is going by pressurized way for a particular goal, there is no meaning in life, rather than they keep the realistic expectations, but again, as I mentioned, do not keep the low expectations, do not keep the unrealistic expectations, understand your resources, this resources mean your manpower, man, machine, material, money, method and minutes, understand talk to the people surrounding to you, talk to your parents, friends, teachers, and discuss with them, try get the opinion from the society, and then I am sure you will be able to reach the realistic expectations. And when you will frame your realistic expectation, you will achieve it and you will have the happiness in your life. Thank you.